I never imagined that a simple act of kindness would lead to a millionaire discovery. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started with a gentle knock on my apartment door. My heart raced. It was a chilly afternoon, the kind that makes you feel the weight of loneliness. I swung it open, expecting one of the neighbors. But instead, I met the wild eyes of an old man, trembling, his hands shaking like leaves in a storm. "Help," he gasped. I took him inside without a second thought. My small studio was cramped, filled with the scent of cheap takeout and old books. I quickly made him sit on my faded couch. "Water?" I stammered, rushing to the kitchen. My heart pounded in my chest as I poured. His desperation bled into the silence, thick and palpable. "Thank you," he whispered, voice barely above a rasp. I noticed the lines on his face, etched deep, each wrinkle a testimony of unseen battles. "I don't have much," but he reached into his tattered coat, pulling out a small, slender box wrapped in aged paper. My breath hitched. What was it? As I opened it, light spilled onto the wooden table, revealing a sparkling, antique watch, golden and ornate. It shimmered, a strange allure pulling me closer. "This was my father's," he said, his eyes flashing with memories. "It's worth a fortune." I blinked, stunned. A million questions swirled in my head. "Why are you giving this to me?" My hands trembled as I held the watch between us, feeling its heavy history pressing down. The room swelled with tension, like the calm before a storm. "I need your help. I can't let it go to waste." There was something about him, urgency, a flicker of hope that felt so raw, so fragile. My heart clenched at the thought of his struggle, his pain. I wanted to say yes. The promise of a better life tingled in the air. But just as quickly, doubt filled me like cold water. "What do you want?" I whispered, the feel of the watch suddenly weighing on my conscience. $1 million treasure, but what was the cost? And before I could digest the complexity of his request, there was a loud crash just outside my door. My heart seized. The old man's expression turned from hope to terror in an instant. "They found me," he shouted, voice breaking. "Who are they?" Fear gripped me, my feet rooted to the ground. I couldn't unsee the terror in his eyes as the door rattled wildly. What had I gotten myself into? What secrets lay hidden within that watch? The pounding on the door grew louder, frantic. And in that fraught moment, I realized life as I knew it was about to change forever. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The door shook violently, rattling in its frame as if the world around us had descended into chaos. I could hear anxious breaths escaping my lips, mingling with the frantic pounding. It cut through me like ice, the sound of impending disaster. The old man's eyes darted around, searching for an escape that didn't exist in my cramped studio. "They don't just want the watch," he muttered, a tremor in his voice that mirrored my own rising panic. "They want me too." His face was a canvas of fear, desperation painting over the features that age had carved like a statue weathered by storms. I knew I had to act, but anxiety wormed its way into my thoughts, blurring any sense of clarity. "Who are they?" I implored, stepping closer to him, the watch still clenched loosely in my hand. What kind of threat could reduce a man who had lived through so much into this quivering wreck? His eyes softened briefly, holding a history I longed to understand, but feared to unravel. A loud crash sent a jolt through my body, and the door splintered slightly at the hinge. "We need to go now," I managed to say, adrenaline cutting through my confusion as I propelled myself to scan the limited space in my studio. "Where do we hide?" The old man hesitated, then pointed toward the small closet by the kitchen, his breaths coming in quick, shallow gasps. "In there. Don't make a sound." My instincts kicked in. I pushed him toward the closet, then followed, pulling the door shut just as another force slammed against the door. We huddled together, my heart thundering in my ears, drowning out the chaos just beyond the thin wood. The watch, forgotten for the moment, found its way silently back into my pocket, the weight of it pressing against my side like a hidden truth begging to be revealed. Inside the closet, the dark pressed in on us. His breathing steadied slightly, though I could feel the tension radiating off him like heat. "You shouldn't have taken it," he murmured, fear dancing in his eyes as they settled on me. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "I'm in this now, aren't I?" I whispered back, trying to keep my voice steady, clenching my fists to quell the growing despair. I could hear muffled voices outside, searching. My heart sang the sound of my flat breaking echoed deep, resonating with the end of my already fragile existence. But then I felt his hand on my sleeve, a gentle squeeze that offered a flicker of human connection in the dark. "I'm so sorry," he murmured. Tears welled up unbidden, spilling over as the weight of my circumstances morphed from fear to a haunting sadness. "What have you gotten yourself into?" I asked, voice breaking. I feared that I had crossed a threshold into a world that could drag me under, suffocating my hopes and dreams. Suddenly, another loud crash and thin voice. It was a young woman, calm and steady. "Dad? Are you in there?" His eyes widened, heart-stopping panic ricocheting through the cramped space as he pressed his face against the door. "Lila," he shouted in disbelief, "please. I'm coming in." The lock rattled, and with a sudden merciless click, the door swung open. The light flooded in, blinding us as I squinted against it. And there she stood, Lila, her features a striking blend of defiance and tenderness. But the moment she caught sight of the old man, her face cracked into sheer relief, transforming before my eyes. I was worried sick. She rushed forward, enveloping him in a hug that seemed to mend fragments of broken lives. I hesitated, unsure of my role, of how to articulate my presence in this intimate reunion. But the moment felt like a lifeline, drawing me in from the bleakness that consumed me. "What's happening?" Lila turned her gaze toward me, confusion mingled with gratitude. "Run," he gasped, pulling her back protectively. "It's not safe." The urgency in his tone swept through the room, casting shadows even in the brightness of their reunion, but Lila stood firm, determination knitting her brow. "No, we stay together, Dad. I won't let them take you." As the gravity of their bond unfurled, I felt an undercurrent knitting between us, a silent understanding that we were all jarred together by the whims of fate. "But what about the watch?" I blurted out, feeling it burn against my hip like a detonator to our precarious situation. In that instant, the room felt suspended in time. The old man's face creased with worry, Lila's gaze sharpening with resolve. "I'll explain later," he said, urgency mounting in his voice. "But right now, we have to leave. We have to run," and as we hastened out of the collapsing sanctuary of my apartment, leaving the remnants of my ordinary life behind, a part of me understood that this wouldn't merely be a flight from danger, it might be the beginning of an unraveling that exposed secrets I never wanted unearthed. The adrenaline coursed through us as I looked back toward my once safe haven, uncertainty flooding my heart. What had begun as an act of kindness was spiraling into something unimaginable, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that the most perilous of roads was yet to come. But the most frightening thought of all emerged in the shadows of my mind. What if the secrets hidden within that watch weren't the only things worth fearing? As we stumbled out into the cold night air, the chaos outside felt like a tidal wave ready to crush us. Adrenaline surged, propelling us forward while shadows lengthened behind us. I could hear footsteps pounding in the distance, but our collective fear pushed us ahead, a desperate need for survival overriding our instinct to look back. The street was lit with flickering lights, casting eerie shadows that danced as we raced past. Lila's hand gripped her father's tightly, their bond a lifeline that anchored us through the chaos. But as we ran, I couldn't shake the growing realization I was entwined in a life I barely understood, a life where a simple watch now had the power to damn us all. "Where do we go?" I gasped, my breath visible in the frigid air, that same watch still pulsing in my pocket like a synchronizing heart. The truth of its significance rattled in my mind, fueled by the urgency of our circumstances. "Just keep running," Lila urged, her voice a mixture of determination and fear. She scanned the street, her emerald eyes sharp under the streetlights, vivid against the night's dark canvas. My gaze flicked around us, searching for a sanctuary, a hideout, anything that might shield us from the storm brewing on our heels. Head down that alley, the old man commanded, his voice steadier now, protection blending with resolve. He pulled Lila closer, and I followed as we darted into the narrow corridor, the stench of garbage mixing with the cool breeze. As we approached the end of the alley, I risked a glance back. A figure emerged from the shadows at the street corner, tall, hooded, moving with an unsettling grace. My heart plummeted. "They're coming for us," I blurted, panic rising like fire in my throat. "Keep moving," Lila shouted, and we pushed forward until the narrow path led us to a street performance, still alive with music and laughter. The air shimmered with notes of a guitar, the artist strumming passionately while a handful of attentive spectators scattered crumpled bills near his feet. It felt bizarre, an escape into a world of culture when ours was spiraling into a disarray of fear. But it was the only cover we had. We slipped into the throng, trying to blend in with people who were blissfully unaware of the danger that stalked just behind the curtain of the ordinary. As we shuffled through the crowd, I felt Lila's hand brush against mine. It was fleeting, but it lingered, a simple gesture that sparked warmth amid the thick cloud of dread that surrounded us. That connection, even under these dire circumstances, offered a fleeting moment of hope, a reminder of humanity amid the chaos. "Over here," the old man whispered, leading us toward a pair of tall, rusted doors set against an aging brick wall. With a final glance around, I followed them as we slipped inside, away from the flickering lights and comforting music, into a hushed atmosphere that enveloped us like a shroud. The interior was dimly lit, crates stacked in haphazard piles, the air thick with dust and the scent of something stale, but it provided the sanctuary we desperately needed. "We need to buy time," Lila spoke as we moved further inside, her voice low and measured. "Dad, tell me about the watch." In the darkness, her father's expression grew serious, lined with an apprehension that transcended fear. "It's not just a watch," he said slowly, glancing around as if the shadows held ears. "It's a key to something far more dangerous than you could imagine." My heart quickened at the words. I slowly pulled the watch from my pocket, holding it between us. It gleamed faintly in the dim light, entrancing and ominous all at once. "What do you mean? What does it unlock?" He opened his mouth to respond, but just then a loud crashing sound echoed from outside, a booming reminder of the danger that had not faltered. Surprise flashed across Lila's face, but her father's eyes held a fierce determination. "We don't have much time. They'll find us if we stay here." A gnawing terror slithered into my gut. "But you have to tell us," I insisted, though the weight of impending dread loomed large. "Who are they? Why is this watch so important?" The air felt electric as he hesitated, torn between his instinct to protect and a truth that beckoned from the depths. And then, just as he began to speak, the door burst open with a deafening triumph, and a figure swathed in darkness stepped in. "Don't even think about running." It was a woman, her voice cold and commanding as her eyes brightened with unyielding malice. In that moment, I realized that my life, Lila's life, and the old man's life were now tangled together, pinned under the weight of secrets as yet unrevealed. My breath hitched as the realization dawned on me. Simple acts of kindness had led to tease and unveiling spiral that threatened to obliterate everything I held dear. And with a storm of emotions swirling around me, I could only wonder how deep the roots of this chaos would reach before the final reckoning. With the woman standing in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the harsh light outside, a profound silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating. I could feel the uncertainty drift through the room like a heavy fog. Panic fluttered in my chest as my instincts screamed for escape, but my feet felt glued to the ground, paralyzed by the weight of dread. "Who are you?" Lila's voice pierced the stillness, a brave front despite the tremor betraying the apprehension lurking beneath. The woman took a step forward, her icy gaze flicking from Lila to me, then landing on the old man with a predatory intensity. "You already know more than you should, old man. It was foolish of you to think you could hide," she sneered, her words dripping with disdain. Lilla's father straightened, the fear melting from his features, replaced by a steely resolve that momentarily took me by surprise. "You won't take them," he asserted, his voice firm with conviction. "I won't let you." "Take them?" "Oh no, dear man, it's not about taking." She took another step, her lips curling into a smirk. "It's about the truth. This watch holds secrets that can bound empires, and with it, I can end you all." The tension shifted as I clutched the watch tighter, its eerie pulse drumming in tandem with my racing heart. I could sense the gravity of what hung in the air, the unspoken revelations that crawled closer. "What secrets?" I managed to utter, barely above a whisper, my curiosity fighting against the cataract of fear. Ignoring me, she turned her attention to Lilla's father, her voice softening to a condescending whisper. "Did you think this was about protecting them? Did you think tonight was about your noble quest to keep secrets safe?" The old man didn't flinch. Every muscle in his body was taut, preparing for a fight I hoped we would not have to face. "All I care about is keeping them safe from your poison," he replied, the warmth of his love for Lila emanating in every word. "Precious little girl, always putting others first." The woman made a mocking expression, glancing fleetingly at Lila. "You think the world is only filled with kindness? How naive." "Enough," Lila shouted, surprising all of us. She took a bold step forward, a fierce fire ignited in her emerald eyes. "You think you can intimidate us? You'll never have that power. Whatever you want from my dad, you have to go through me." The audacity in Lilla's defiance momentarily took me aback. She seemed to transform, shedding the fragility that had wrapped around her since our frantic escape. It ignited something within me, a flicker of determination in the face of overwhelming odds. But as quickly as hope formed, doubt clawed back just as fast. The woman's expression twisted into a sneer. "How romantic. But sweet girl, if you wish to see your father again, you best hand over that watch." "No," I exclaimed, instinctively stepping closer to Lila, the watch pressed against my ribs like a shield. "I won't let you take it. It's all we have." For a fleeting moment, the air sparked with an unsaid agreement that this wasn't merely about the watch or the woman hunting us. It felt woven with deeper threads, a tapestry of family, trust, and the unbreakable bonds we forged in moments of desperation. "Then you leave me no choice." The woman's eyes glinted with malice as she flicked her wrist. In an instant, two more figures stepped into the room from behind her, shrouded in dark cloaks, their presence more menacing than the one that initially confronted us. "Run!" I yelled, adrenaline propelling us into action, and Lilla's father grabbed her arm, pulling her along as we barreled toward the opposite end of the room. But the way was blocked, the only exit the doorway slowly filling with danger. In that fleeting chaos, I spun to scan the surroundings, desperate for an alternative escape route. My heart raced, and there, in the corner of my eye, the darkness shifted. There was an old fire escape ladder strapped to the wall, rusting and beaten, but holding promise. "Over there!" I shouted. Without waiting for acknowledgement, we dashed toward the ladder, my lungs working overtime. But as we reached it, the figures behind us surged forward, blocking our path. The flames of fear began to consume me as the shouts of the woman echoed around us, both scathing and laced with threat. "You can't run forever. The truth will always find you." As we fumbled with the rusty handle of the fire escape, panic clawed my throat, choking any logical thought. In the tumult of my racing heart, a glint caught my eye, something reflective beneath the layers of grime and shadows. I sank to my knees, my pulse marching with urgency, and grasped it. A key, a simple, intricate key, older than the watch but perfectly preserved. My heart sank further. I could feel the pieces of the past shuddering to life, warning me of a storm brewing just beneath the surface. As I stood, the air around me thickened with a new trepidation. Another revelation, another layer to this burgeoning chaos that tied us all together. The moment felt suspended, a fragile brink on the edge of catastrophe resting in the palm of my hand. Lila and her father were already on the ladder when I joined them, and we climbed upward, desperation guiding our ascent. But as we reached the top, a haunting voice echoed behind us. "You're too late to escape." Just as we rounded the corner to find safety, a hand gripped my shoulder, pulling me back as a sharp gasp escaped my lips. I turned, breathless, to find my other hand clutching the key, its significance unraveling like a ball of dark yarn, leading deeper into a web of danger woven from lives torn apart by secrets and betrayal. And at that moment, I was left with a singular truth: the deeper our connection grew, the darker those secrets seemed, and as we wrestled with the weight of that knowledge, I realized we might just be at the brink of unveiling the very thing that could either save us or destroy us all. I never imagined that a simple act of kindness would lead to a millionaire discovery. The tight grip on my shoulder didn't relent, dragging me away from the precarious edge of safety as Lila and her father vanished into the shadows above. My mind raced, grappling with the seconds slipping away. I twisted around to confront my captor, and the cold, discerning gaze of the woman sent icy tendrils snaking through my veins. "You," she hissed, a malicious satisfaction flecking her words. "You're the one who holds the key, aren't you? You have the potential to unravel everything." Swallowing against the fear, I fought back. "I don't know what you want from me." The fire in my chest was dim, caught in a battle with overwhelming terror. "I only want to help them." A flicker of surprise danced across her face, quickly extinguished by contempt. "Help? You think you can help them with no power of your own? You're nothing." With a sudden yank, she pulled me closer, the world around us fading into a muted backdrop against the thundering pulse in my ears. "What you hold is valuable, and with it, you can determine their fate. But believe me, if you try to hide it, they will pay the price." Her words hung heavy in the air, molding my reality into a distorted shape of dread. I glanced upward where I last saw Lila and her father, fear for their safety igniting a strength I didn't know I possessed. "I'll never let you hurt them." I spat defiantly, forcing my voice to sound stronger than the trembling beneath my skin. "Oh, how noble," she mocked, her breath warm against my cheek. "But this isn't a game of valor. This is survival. And survival has its sacrifices." The reality of her words twisted my stomach, filling it with rancid dread. Just as I began to lose hope, a surge of compassion exploded in my chest, ignited by the thought of Lilith's unwavering spirit and her father's determination. "If they mean anything to you at all, you'll let them go." Her laughter echoed through the empty steel corridors, a haunting reverberation that chilled my spine. "You really have no idea what power truly is, do you? You're holding onto the fragile hope that those two care about you, that there's still time for kindness in this world. But kindness is weak, and in my shadow it will vanish." With every word, she moved closer, drawing upon my fears like a moth to flame. Yet, clutched in my palm, the key felt almost alive, pulsating with a forgotten magic. It was reminiscent of the whispers threading through Lilith's laughter. There had to be a purpose behind it, buried beneath layers of dread. Suddenly, a sliver of hope cut through the dark. "What if I told you," I said, voice steadying, "that this key can unlock something far greater than mere truth? It might just unlock a way for us all to survive." To my surprise, the woman pulled back, intrigue flickering in her eyes, battling the contempt still burning there. "What do you mean?" "It was made long ago, before secrets became weapons. It holds a treasury, a mansion at the edge of the world where dreams and destinies are forged." "You don't want the watch. You're after something bigger than that." Lies poured from my lips like a river of desperation, but there was an unexpected boldness in my words. Perhaps I could forge a new path, not just for myself, but for Lila and her father. Perhaps I could convince her to take a detour from her destructive path, even if it was only for a moment. "Treasure?" she mused thoughtfully, her focus sharpening. "Prove it. Show me what lies beyond the door of that life-altering secret." But as she spoke, I could sense the clock ticking, each second amplifying the fear that still lingered from the shadows above. "If you let me go with them, I can show you. I can lead the way, but we must do this together. I am sure you'll cooperate," she replied, a predatory grin stretching across her face. "But for now, take me to your friends, and maybe, just maybe, I won't kill you in the process. Against my better judgment, I nodded slowly, pretending to accept her demands while my mind raced to concoct a true escape route from this deceitful labyrinth. We turned back towards the fire escape, but just as I reached the bottom rung, a sudden tumult erupted from above. Exclamations rang through the air, galvanizing me to look up. It was Lila. Her voice strained, echoed down the hollow corridor laced with urgency, calling for me to join her. What are you doing? You have to come. Lila, I shouted, desperate, willing my limbs to move while my heart sank into despair. Get out. It's not safe. But the woman tightened her grip on me, a haunting smile playing at her lips as she leaned into my ear. You can choose fear or fight, but the decision you make will determine your end. Choose wisely. With Lilith's voice piercing through the storm of uncertainty, I stood at the precipice of despair. Would I lead this monster to her, or would I risk everything to save the people who mattered most? In that moment, I grasped the cold key tighter, feeling its power pulse against the chaos, as I braced myself for yet another leap into the unknown, not knowing what other secrets lay waiting in the shadows. The echo of Lila's voice reverberated through the metallic confines of the stairwell, an urgent call that clashed against the oppressive silence that enveloped me. Each time I heard her cry, a wave of vulnerability crashed down, compounding my fears and desires. Could I truly fathom the weight of betrayal waiting to unfold? As the woman's grip tightened around my arm, she pulled me with a force that felt like despair itself, prompting visions of Lila intertwined in shadows, perilous and alone. I felt like I was being torn between two worlds, the encroaching darkness that threatened to ensnare everything I cared about, and the fragile light that continued to flicker like a heartbeat. You must listen to me, I implored through gritted teeth, turning my head slightly to meet her smoldering gaze. Let's find the truth before you make a grave mistake. Her laughter cut through the air, sharp as glass. The layers beneath her seemed to peel away, revealing a hint of uncertainty that momentarily lent me courage. You think you can take me on this little adventure of yours and expect to escape unscathed? Maybe not, I admitted, but what you want is here. I gestured weakly towards the darkness overhead, hoping she'd sense the fragile string of hope I tried to weave between us. Those two up there, what if they hold the very key you seek? What if they're part of something bigger than you imagined? The flicker of doubt crossed her expression, a moment where possibilities hung in the air like silken threads, ready to be pulled taut. I pressed on, desperate for her to recognize the potential of forging an unlikely alliance. I promise you, I had no idea of their importance until recently. Let's just meet them, and unravel the mystery together. A tension hung between us, a dangerous game playing out, and I could feel the weight of her power over me like a pendulum swinging, and in that moment, I sensed her interest. All right, lead the way. There was a cold finality to her words, yet something unyielding tempered by a hint of curiosity lingered in the air. Pushing open the metal door that led back to the upper levels, I held on to my breath, scanning across the dimly lit space. The tension in my gut tightened as we breached the threshold, a trepidation swirling around us like a tempest. Lila and her father could very well be in peril even as they remained in hiding. I peered down the corridor, my heart racing, and suddenly, I caught sight of Lila, her silhouette framed against the backdrop of flickering lights that buzzed ominously above. She turned, her eyes wide, locking onto mine with an intensity that made my heart skip. You came back, she cried, a glimmer of relief amidst the fear twisted at her brow. Lila, stand back. But before I could shout another warning, the woman I had acquiesced to stepped forward, a predatory gleam in her eye as Lila's expression shifted from relief to horror. No, I yelled, leaping in front of her as if somehow my fragile frame could shield her from the storm brewing behind me. The woman's voice curled with malice as she spoke. You've become quite the nuisance, haven't you? Hiding things won't serve you, and neither will this little game of courage. Panic surged through me as I glanced back at Lila, who was brimming with defiance, unwilling to cower. What do you want? She demanded, her voice sharp. You must leave us alone. But the woman smiled a chilling expression that slithered down my spine. Oh, my dear, I have exactly what I want. I'm here for the secrets, but it's the power behind them that interests me most. Just then, the air shifted, and I caught the glint of something in Lilith's hand, a small object that sparkled eerily. A wave of unease gripped me. "What is that?" I breathed, a stitch of hope strangled by fear. "I don't know," Lila replied, her voice taut with tension. "But I found it called to me." The woman's gaze snapped to the object, her lips curling into a grin that felt more like a grimace. You carry treasures I did not foresee. You have no idea what you're playing with, do you?" The revelation hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. My mind raced. A morsel of hope flickered within the storm of uncertainty that threatened to consume us all. If only we could bind our strengths, Lila's spirit, her father's wisdom, my resolve to protect them together, could we unlock a path through the chaos. But before I could voice a plan or a breath of solidarity, the woman lunged forward, seeking to snatch the object from Lila's grasp. In that crucial moment, the floor beneath us quaked, a sudden calamity that felt as if the very building might collapse under the weight of the secrets held within. With my heart pounding and adrenalized instinct taking over, I shouted, "Run! Get to the exit!" Across the expanse, I saw Lilith's eyes gleam with a determination I wished I could claim for myself, and she bolted, her free hand clasped tightly around the glimmering object that was now our only hope. A split second of movement thrummed in the air. But just as I turned to follow, an ear-splitting crash reverberated through the stagnant corridor, beam plummeting from above. The world fell apart as I dashed forward, desperation overtaking reason, but it was too late. The debris rained down around us, scattering chaos and fear in every direction. I reached for Lila, but the thick cloud of dust engulfed me, stinging my eyes and choking my breath as I realized I had just revealed the very trap meant to ensnare us all, and in that instant of pure panic, another revelation stung like a wasp. Was this the ultimate sacrifice the woman had spoken of? As darkness descended and the world crumbled, an immense pang of uncertainty tightened the noose around my heart. Everything I grasped for in the face of despair felt like it might slip through my fingers, and I was left suspended between hope and the abyss, teetering on a precipice where even the glimmer of potential felt like it could snuff out at any moment. Panic surged as the rubble cascaded around us, a chaotic symphony of crashing metal and splintering wood vibrating through the air. I felt the earth tremble beneath my feet, each tremor echoing the deep-seated dread gnawing at my insides. Lila's silhouette flickered before me like a candle battling a fierce wind, and I had to keep her safe. I lunged forward, hoping to grasp her hand once more. "Lila!" I shouted, my voice hoarse amidst the cacophony. "We have to move." But all I could see was the dust cloud thickening, turning the corridor into an opaque tunnel of dread, where the passageways that had once felt like a labyrinth of hope now morphed into an inescapable pit of despair. If I didn't reach here, if I lost our chance to untwist the knot of betrayal clinging to our lives, we were all doomed. Through the chaos, I felt a strong push from behind, one that sent me tumbling forward, face first into the cold, hard ground. The world flipped upside down, and the sharp edges of stone pressed against my skin. A cry escaped my lips as I struggled to steady myself, clawing at debris in an effort to rise. Desperate, I turned, hoping against hope that Lila was behind me. "Lila!" I cried, my heart tightening as the dust swirled like a tornado, obscuring my view. I could hear a low groan vibrating through the ground, the kind of sound that tormented every instinct to survive. From somewhere deeper in the clouds of dust and debris, I heard her voice, a fragile beacon. "Aim here! Aim here!" Gasping, I finally managed to rise on shaky legs. Visibility was scant. Shadows flitted just beyond the periphery of my sight. "Stay close to me," I urged, instinctively scanning the remnants of our sanctuary for any sign of her. And yet, amid the ruin of our hopes, a strange moment unfurled. A hand emerged from the tumult, reaching out as if to make contact, to guide me like a lifeline through the perilous unknown. For an instant, I hesitated, guilt clawing at my heart. The woman who had once threatened everything now seemed oddly vulnerable. Perhaps I could show her what it meant to hope. But the echo of Lilith's cry jolted me back to the present, shattering the illusion of choice. My thoughts swirled wildly as I finally found Lila, crouched low with the shimmering artifact clutched in her hand. The very spark of mystery that had brought darkness upon us. Go, I urged her, grabbing her shoulder as I yanked her to her feet. We can't waste any more time. Together, we dashed down the corridor, the echo of impending doom reverberating in the distance. We had no map, no compass to guide us in this fray. The exit was just a promise on our lips, fading with every frenzied heartbeat. It wasn't long before the oppressive air around us shifted, the walls seeming to pulse with a dark energy. As we moved deeper into the maze, the hair on my arm stood up, warning me that we were being watched. My breath came unevenly despite my relentless drive. Do you think she'll find us? Lila asked, fear lacing her voice. No, I lied, though my insides churned with unease. Well, make it out, I promise. We turned another corner, and the darkness began to lighten, revealing some flickering emergency lights. Drawing closer, I noticed another shadow of figures standing half-hidden behind jagged remnants that once stood proud. My heart raced as adrenaline surged through my veins, but the instant a flash of recognition sparked in my mind, I knew the storm wasn't over yet. Who? I began, but the figures stepped closer, illuminating the familiar contours of a face that had been woven into the tapestry of my memories. It was Isaac, Lila's father, his eyes haunted, as if he had danced with specters of despair and returned with questions too heavy to bear. Dad! Lila exclaimed, rushing toward him. I thought I lost you both. He breathed, collapsing against a jagged wall adorned with an abstract patchwork of peeling paint, hues of orange and green melding into something almost beautiful. The moment felt electric, a fragile web of connection rising amidst the ashes. But the state of chaos around us quickly snapped the thread, and I couldn't shake the tension lurking in the shadows behind us. We need to leave now, I called, tension seeping into my voice. It's not safe here. Isaac hesitated, his gaze lingering on Lila's hand. The mysterious object still shone brightly, pulsating with a rhythm that felt eerily alive. What do you have there? He asked, his voice a mixture of awe and foreboding. Lila's face turned serious. I don't know, it just feels important. A flicker of understanding crossed Isaac's brow, but before he could voice his suspicions, the ground shuddered once more, shaking loose gravel and fragments. No, we can't afford to hesitate. I felt every muscle tense as we prepared to escape, each moment heavier than the last. Yet just as we leapt into action, the woman's laughter echoed through the debris. You think you can run from your fate? The deep timbre sliced through the air, and for a fleeting moment, it planted a seed of dread that rooted itself deep within me. We sprinted past the shard of reality that was once our lives, hurtling toward the exit. Yet I couldn't shake the looming dread that twisted the core of me. What awaited us outside? As we burst into the blinding light of the world above, my heart sang. Flashes of blue and red swirled around us. The cold, authoritative flicker of police lights filled the air, navigated by shouts and commands, uncertainty waiting at the edge like a lurking predator. They were here, and with them came the promise of questions we weren't ready to answer. And that heartbeat, reality shifted, offering us no respite, no sanctuary. We were about to be thrust into a whirlwind. We were utterly unprepared for a collision of secrets and consequences that would demand a reckoning, and there, amidst the chaos, the last pieces of the puzzle twisted slowly into focus. My heart hammered as Lila turned toward her father, and her voice faltered, barely above a whisper. What are we going to do now? Her question hung between us, carrying the weight of a million shattered dreams, and for a brief moment, despair cut deeper than any blade. I glanced at her, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle around us like a fog, knowing we would have to unravel this tangle of truth and lies before it ensnared us once and for all. The chaos of the outside world engulfed us like a wild tidal wave as we stepped into the harsh light, the faint smell of smoke curling in the air. The voices of officers barked commands, their silhouettes pressing against the bright sun like looming shadows. I could feel the panic clawing at my throat, threatening to swallow me whole. My body moved on instinct, but my mind was paralyzed by uncertainty. Please, Stay close, I whispered urgently to Lila and Isaac, feeling the urgency of the moment seep into my bones. Every instinct screamed at me to move, to flee, to hide from the unforgiving eyes of the law. We need to find somewhere safe to think, but as we maneuvered through the throng, the omnipresent hum of fear was palpable. News reporters jostled their way forward, cameras raised like weapons, eager for the next exclusive scoop, each startling flash threatening to expose the truth we were desperate to bury. I caught snippets of frantic dialogue, devastating collapse, possible victims, rumors of hidden artifacts, and with each phrase, I felt the ground beneath us shifting. Over here, I urged, veering left into the shrouded safety of a nearby alley, hoping the gusts of chaos wouldn't find us there. The shadows swallowed us, wrapping around us like a cloak of concealment. My pulse hammered in my ears, but Lila remained rooted, glancing at her father, eyes wide and worried. "Dad, what do we do?" she asked, her soft voice trembling, as if each syllable was a fragile glass ornament about to shatter. Isaac ran his fingers through his disheveled hair, glancing between us. "We find a way to explain, to get ahead of whatever they think happened. Lila, we need to destroy that artifact before anyone discovers its real identity. It's too dangerous." The words hung in the air, heavy and urgent, shaking me to my core. "Destroy it?" I echoed, my voice strained, as Lila's hand tightened involuntarily around the object. The faint glow pulsed against the dimness of the alley, as if sensing the weight of our discussion. "But what if it's the key to understanding everything? Isn't it worth fighting for?" Her gaze darted between her father and me, fear crackling in the air like static electricity. "What if someone sees it? What if it ends up putting us in more danger?" Isaac stepped forward, urgency rising in his tone. "It's dangerous, Lila. We can't afford to take risks we can't control. If it's linked to whatever just happened," as his words trailed off into an ominous silence, I reached out and grasped Lila's hand, squeezing it firmly in mine. "We'll find a way to make this right. I promise we won't let fear dictate our choices." In that infinitesimal moment, the connection between us glimmered, a tentative thread woven through shared fear and defiance. Hope flickered in her eyes, and I felt a spark reignite in my own heart, but the moment was cut short by the wailing siren of an approaching police vehicle that pierced through the thick tension. My thoughts raced, and I understood the stakes. If they found us here, the truth would spiral out of our control, a truth festering with dark shadows of betrayal and unanswered questions. Isaac glanced at Lila, and then back at me, resolve forming behind his haunted eyes. "We need to find a place to hide until things settle down. There's an old storage facility near here. We can lay low for a bit and figure out our next move." The words felt like rain after a long drought, a plan, a thread of security in the turmoil that sought to envelop us. "Let's go," I urged, trying to reinvigorate our fleeting hope as we slipped from the alley into an abandoned street, casting one last glance at the authorities who represented both protection and peril. As we rushed through the abandoned warehouse doors, I felt the sheer weight of uncertainty pressing down on me, thoughts churning in my mind. What were we up against? Was it just the fallout from the collapsed structure, or was a darker force at play that loomed over us, waiting to strike? Inside the dim confines of the storage facility, I hesitated before we lost ourselves in the shadows. Noticing a flicker of movement beyond the grimy window, a figure stepped carefully through the light, searching, seemingly oblivious to the depth of chaos that had unfolded moments earlier. "Who's that?" I whispered to Isaac, pointing cautiously. He squinted against the light filtering through the grime. I don't know. Could be someone looking for answers or something worse," and before I could process the sudden surge of fear within, Lila turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper yet resonating with urgency. "We can't let anyone find us, not now." But as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, the world outside descended into a darkness that felt insurmountable, and I couldn't shake the instinctive sense of danger creeping closer, shadowing us like a predator on the prowl. Just as I opened my mouth to suggest we move deeper into the facility, the unmistakable clip of footsteps echoed through the hollow space, sending a shiver through my spine. "Who's there?" A voice called from the shadows, a voice I never expected to hear, and in that surreal moment, My heart sank with the shocking realization that fate had drawn an inescapable line, one that we were now tethered to, whether we liked it or not. The figure stepped into the remaining light, revealing a familiar face that twisted my insides with confusion and dread. Alex, the boy who used to sit next to me in history class, with the easy smile and contagious laughter that had always sparked warmth in my chest. But that was before the lines of our lives etched themselves with chaos and uncertainty. "Anya?" he asked, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you doing here?" 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind, all colliding into an agonizing cacophony. My stomach twisted in knots as I exchanged glances with Isaac and Lila, their faces a mirror of my own shock. I could ask you the same thing," I stammered, gripping Lila's hand as though it were a lifeline. The shadow of recognition flickered across his face, quickly replaced by a mask of concern. "I heard the news. I thought something terrible had happened to all of you. This area is crawling with police." His gaze flickered anxiously away, scanning the room as if it were filled with invisible threats. "I was just trying to help, but what do you know?" Isaac's voice was a low growl, barely concealing the surge of protectiveness that bubbled beneath the surface. "We don't have time for games." Alex lifted his hands in mock surrender, his expression pleading. "I'm not playing games. If I wanted to do that, I would have joined the bandwagon of reporters outside. Something is really going down, and I can help you if you trust me." Panic washed over me. I wanted to trust him, to believe that this was a moment of unexpected kindness amid the tumult. But around us loomed the weight of uncertainty, thick and dark. "What do you mean help us?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "How? By exposing us even further?" "No, I swear," he insisted, stepping closer, the desperation evident in his posture. "I've been following this since it started, the collapse, the artifact. You don't understand how much attention this is getting," and he took a deep breath, "and that artifact might just be the answer to saving you." Lila spoke then, her voice softer but quivering with urgency. "How do you know about the artifact?" He hesitated, his gaze darting just beyond my shoulder as if the walls themselves were listening. "I know what it is," he said finally, almost a whisper. "I've done research. I found a connection to something much larger than whatever happened today. This is bigger than you three. It's about power, and it's dangerous." As he spoke, I could feel an ember of hope igniting in my chest. Perhaps this was what we needed, someone on the outside who could help guide us through the darkness. But just as quickly, doubt swept in, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a risk I wasn't prepared to take. "Why should we trust you, Alex?" "Because I'm the only one who might know how to control this," he replied earnestly. "If the authorities or anyone else gets their hands on the artifact, it won't just be you in danger. We'll be looking at something much worse, power plays that could change everything." Isaac, still tense, asked, "How do we know this isn't a trap?" "I get it," Alex said, frustration creeping in. "But you can't stay here forever. And trust me, I'm not the bad guy. I lost everything too. My family." His voice cracked, revealing layers of pain. "I'm in this just as deep as you are." A heavy silence hung in the air, pierced only by the distant wail of sirens. I could feel Lila's grip strengthen, a shared resolve mingling with uncertainty. We were on the precipice of something pivotal, but the risk felt colossal. In that moment, a flicker of kindness glimmered among the Shadowsa boy who understood loss, a chance to leverage knowledge against the tide rising just outside. "I'll go with you," I said suddenly, surprising even myself. "But on one condition: we move as a unit. No secrets." Isaac regarded me with a mixture of disbelief and concern, while Lilith's eyes fluttered, the glimmer of hope battling against the dark clouds of doubt. Alex gave a tentative nod, relief washing over his features. "I promise. No secrets." Just as we began to formulate a plan, our breath hitching at the thought of movement, the sound of footsteps echoed louder in the cold stillness. My heart raced as I spun towards the door, the dread inside morphing into something far more tangible. "Stay quiet," Isaac whispered, the tension thickening as we all pressed against the walls, anticipation electrifying the air. The footsteps drew closer, a muffled conversation weaving through the dimness. I strained to catch snippets of dialogue, recognizing the urgency, the pointed accusations flung through the silence. Find them. They can't be far. We need that artifact now, no excuses. A stern voice commanded. As the words sank in, horror pooled in my stomach, and I knew, without a doubt, that we were out of time. The door creaked open, inch by inch, and my breath paused as I saw the silhouettes of men armed with flashlights advancing into the dim space, shadows spilling over the room like ink on a canvas. Run. I gasped, adrenaline igniting a fire in my veins. We had to escape, had to trust each other, even Alex, before the world outside consumed us whole. As we darted into the dim recesses of the storage facility, the crackle of impending doom echoed in the air, urging desperation forward. I could hear Isaac's sharp intake of breath, Lila's soft whimper. The fear surged through us like a living pulse, binding our hearts with a common thread. But even in that chaos, the fragile bond we'd forged amid shadows and uncertainty felt like a beacon illuminating a path within the darkness that amplified our anxiety. We can't let them take us. I choked out as time pressed down like weight on my chest. I could almost feel the oppressive shadows stretching, reaching to claim us. Lila searched my eyes, hope flickering in the depths of her vivid green. Where do we go? She whispered, urgency threading every word, her hand clasped firmly in mine. Following the back exit could lead us to safety. We have to trust each other, I said, my voice steady even as my heart raced. The moment felt monumental, a turning point poised to draw us toward either salvation or ruin. In that flicker of fear, I realized we were not just running from the darkness hunting us, but moving towards a light we had yet to fully understand. As we pressed onward, the murmurs grew louder behind us, authorities closing in like a storm, their intent dark and unyielding. This way. Isaac gestured toward a narrow passage at the back, fear granting him a remarkable clarity. We squeezed through, barely pausing to breathe, as chaos shimmered just beyond our fragile sanctuary. The back door loomed in front of us, a flickering exit, embellished with hope yet drenched in fear. I could hear the heavy thuds of boots nearing behind, the urgency driving us like animals fleeing a predator. A moment's hesitation clawed at me. I could only imagine what lay beyond. Open it, Lila urged, but my hand felt frozen, caught between the fleeing shadows and the uncertain light. Before I could respond, Isaac grasped the doorknob, twisting with resolve, and the door creaked open, shrouded in faint brightness. We spilled out into the alleyway, its cool air brushing against my skin and exhilarating relief tinged with trepidation. Yet, as we darted forward, I caught a brief reflection of something glinting up ahead, a flash of gold, shimmering with unreal allure. The antique watch I had thought so innocuous surged back into my memory. We're not done yet, I murmured, the gravity of the watch's history weighing heavier than before, its significance unfurling before me like a shadowy hand beckoning. There's something more we need to uncover. The watch could be the key, I blurted, the realization spilling out like water racing from a dam. Anya, we don't have time, Isaac insisted, but Lilith's hand tightened on mine, her voice hushed with intent. You're right. I didn't understand why, but a bond pulsed through us, threaded with the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could harness the power contained within this twisted destiny, the weight of our choices merging through the threads of time. As we moved into an adjacent parking structure, the sounds of the outside world grew muffled, a curious calm settling over our small group. But I still felt the specter of danger looming, its sharp edges cutting through notions of safety. A low thrum beneath our feet surged with anticipation. We moved deeper into the abyss between shadow and light, and the glint of the watch surged to life in my memory, its secrets a tumultuous storm brewing just beneath the surface. I spotted an emergency exit labeled with red letters. This could lead us somewhere we can think. Let's go. Isaac, any semblance of his earlier panic shifted to resolve, led the charge, pushing through the door into a dim hallway, the cool air wrapping around us. My heart raced not just with fear but with hope. The walls vibrated with the weight of all we had faced, the trust we had forged. It all gathered behind us like the momentum of an unseen tide. As we pushed further, I could have sworn I heard Lilith's father mumbling a slow string of words, almost like a chant. Trust the key, it's time to choose. What do you mean? I asked, my heart racing as we approached a small storage closet. He paused, taking on an almost mystical air, the nostalgic light of remembrance illuminating his features. The watch may hold answers, but we need to decide our approach. Lila nodded, the spark of clarity igniting in her eyes. Do we tell them what we know, or do we hide it all? I've never believed in hiding truths. Secrets have a way of magnifying into monsters, Isaac mused, his voice echoing with uncovered resolve. The weight of his words settled upon me, reminding me of the cruel irony of how a simple act of kindness had led us here, laying bare the complex webs woven in our lives. From the shadows emerged Alex, his expression tense. We need to unlock the past to understand the future. You can trust me. Don't let fear drown the hope we have left. Together we can mend what has been broken. The flicker of unity wove through us, breathless with possibility. I could feel the watch's resonance, a living reminder that all our choices, the paths we'd taken, the moments that had brought us together were leading us here. This key would unlock the doorway not just to our survival, but to understanding who we could become. We'll unite against the darkness that threatens to snuff out our light, I declared, my voice steady as Lilith's hand gripped mine. With a deep breath, we filled ourselves with courage, determination mingled with fear, and in that singular moment, I realized our fate rested not just upon the secrets held within the watch, but upon the bonds we had forged amid despair. We had survived nightmare after nightmare, and now, equipped with knowledge, we dared to meet our future head-on. As we boldly approached the unknown, I reached into my pocket and pulled the watch from its resting place. In its stillness, I felt it thrum with a rich history, laden with powerful echoes of the past loss, discovery, and warmth nestled tightly together, waiting to be unraveled. The watch shimmered in my palm, a silent promise like a burning flame, illuminating our path as we dared to step forward. In that moment, I understood that kindness could change destinies, that even through fear and shadows, there lay a chance for redemption and rebirth. Lila, Isaac, and Alex gathered around me, ready to join forces as we faced the fractures threatening to shatter our reality. Together, we would unlock the mysteries of our intertwined lives, and as one, we would seize our chance for a new tomorrow, a tomorrow where choices weren't dictated by fear but forged through the power of our united hearts. And as we stepped into the light, I could feel the world shift around us, a prelude to a new beginning illuminated by hope and courage. Perhaps we might yet find forgiveness for what had been lost and wholeness amid the shards of a once fractured destiny. With the police lights flickering against the backdrop of our escape and the adrenaline pumping through us, I whispered the promise that echoed in our hearts together. And together, we would rewrite our story.